Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the year of being 70, which is the idea. This podcast is the idea of my longtime friend, childhood friend actually, Lucy McCarroll, who lives in the UK, in Norfolk. And I'm Lisette Schuitemaker. I live in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is there life before birth and after death? And I am really curious. We may have touched on this before because, yeah, we are 70. So, it starts to happen.
Knows what we've talked about before. Could be anything.
But do you believe in life before birth and life after death, Lucy? I'm curious.
Well, now you put it that way about life before birth, that's a different thing to life after death, isn't it? I haven't actually thought about it in that way before. I do believe in life after death now. I mean, I didn't used to. I was brought up a Christian. So I sort of, as a child, I possibly believed in heaven, possibly hell, in a kind of theoretical kind of way. And then I got to, I think, about the age of 16 when I was studying particularly French literature and the existentialists. And I can't say there was anything specific that kind of spoke to me and said, right, that's it. But I suddenly thought, I don't believe in this. I don't think there is a God. I don't think there's anything outside this life. That's it for me. That is my belief. And I stuck with that for 20 or 25 years. And then when I got divorced, I may have mentioned this before, I went on what's called an Alpha course, which is a kind of evangelical program to kind of invite new Christians into the evangelical fold, I suppose.
Hmm.
Some friends of
Active
mine,
believing.
yes, yes, some friends of mine suggested I do it, and I said, "Well, I don't believe in anything." And they said, "It doesn't matter, just come along, it'll be fun. You'll meet new people." And so I did, and then I had some quite strange experiences. And for a bit, I sort of believed in. I could sort of bring myself to believe in kind of the Christian faith and therefore something outside this world again. And then it just kind of dissolved away again. And then, so I was kind of pretty, I would call myself at that stage an agnostic for, quite a few years, maybe 10 years or something. And then my ghost story happened, which I know I've mentioned before, and I'm very capable of going on about it at length. But basically, a psychic friend of mine came to visit, and somebody spoke to him and said they wanted me to clear their name of something they'd done. They lived in our village. We just moved into the village, and everything this spirit, ghost, what you don't like the term ghost, I know, but this that was sort of told to my friend turned out to have a factual basis in reality. I mean, I found documents, I found a gravestone, I found this man who had been alive and was no longer alive, who'd been alive in the Second World War in our village. Everything he said was true. And so I thought, there's no way I could have known about him or this stuff, and no way my friend could have. It wasn't some great big, kind of public story. It was a little family event. And that, I mean, he never came back, so I can't even verify that.
No, he didn't say thank you for clearing my name, which you did
Well, I
through
think
your
I
book. What is the title of your book again?
Yes, it's a novel called Kindred Spirits, and I sort of wrote a fictional version of it, and I filled in the blanks with a few bits of fiction, but basically I'm pretty sure that I found out what had happened. So anyway, sorry, that was really my the catalyst for me thinking there has to be something, at least after death. I'm not certain about the before birth bit, but after death, I cannot not believe in that. And also, since then, my youngest daughter has people who have passed visit her, including my father, and there are people who live in our house from past eras. My house is kind of like was supposedly built in 1650, and she's not the only person who sees them. And so there are there's it's not kind of like just a one person's made this up or having kind of hallucinations. This is so yes. So okay, I
It's so
believe
funny how it comes to you from various angles, offering itself to you, and you kind of go, "Whoa!"
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't experience any of this myself, and I'm fascinated by it, and I would like to, I think. Maybe I wouldn't, but it has to it seems it has to come to me through other people. But so yes, life after death, there's got to be something that happens that stays. Life before birth, I don't know. I don't know. Tell me your beliefs, your
Tell me what
experience.
I believe. Well, I think as a child, I lived with the fairies and the angels, and they were very real to me. And I had this friend called Bodhi, who my mother would sometimes even lay the table for because I was in constant conversation with this being. And I couldn't see her, no one else could see her, but she was very near. She's even kind of near when I speak her name. So
Wow.
I haven't had this, I haven't had this happen for ever.
So she's here now with you.
Well, it feels like she's right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so okay, so who is she? What is she like? What's your experience of her? You can't see her.
No, I can't see her, but I mean, she is over there. I'm looking over there, right?
Yeah,
And she's kind of a very benign, wise, fun being.
sounds
Not
lovely.
a person, but a being that kind of can, wow, is full of gratitude, full of grace, and reminds me of being full of gratitude and full of grace, and being fun and being, wow, this world is absolutely a miracle how this all came about, minute to minute, moment to moment.
Wow, how
Yeah, she
lovely.
seems rather content when I say that.
So you're in relationship with her. She's not just sort of there.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
responding.
in relationships. So I haven't, I mean, I kind of caved in and gave into normal ways when I was 6 because I had no means of sustaining my connection to the other worlds. My family did not believe in anything. I went to a school where, it was just, and then I just gave up and I kind of came back to that around my 40s. But I always had, before that, even a kind of my secret life. I had my secret life. Nowadays, being spiritual is not strange. You can go to all kinds of workshops and, there's yoga, there's all these things. But when we grew up, I mean, that wasn't there. You were either religious or not religious, and the spiritual wasn't spoken about in that way. So I always had kind of my secret life and read books like Elizabeth Haig's book Initiation was a very important book to me. She talks about how she, as a person now, goes back to being in Egypt and having all these initiations in Egyptian, 2000, 2500 years ago, ritualistic, spiritual faith. And yeah, I think my before birth came when I was in India. I traveled in India for a month by myself. And I may have mentioned this, but I felt like it's not like we discussed incarnation or reincarnation, but it's just very much there when you're in India and you kind of breathe that in. And I was in my second part of my 30s, later part of my 30s, and it was becoming clear that I was not going to have a family. And so I got kind of, well, maybe last time I had like 17 children, and this time I'm off the hook. It is fine. It is fine. I can do that.
You've
It's
done your parenting bit in a past life.
done my parenting bit in a past life, and this life is has another meaning, has another purpose.
That's so interesting. And did you see yourself in past lives? Can you like remember if that's the right
Oh,
word?
that's a lovely question. I've gone to workshops, I remember also like 35 years ago, where this man took us through kind of a thought process in which we went through a door and then down the stairs and then kind of found, other beings. And I remember being a young boy in Africa and being a woman in Japan and these were very vivid images that I can still recall. I haven't thought about them for years, but I can still recall that. I also remember I was then kind of in love with someone. Well, I don't know if I was in love. He had declared his love to me, but he was married and all that. And I just said, this is nonsense. You're projecting a life upon me. Go back to your wife. But then kind of it happened in me that, and I went to this door and I saw his initials on the door and I was like, wow, so this is meant. And then, but his initials are also, when I read them differently, it said I in Dutch, ik. And so I went through that door and I felt, wow, this is kind of a perennial me, which I don't believe in incarnation, like you incarnate as a full being onto the next. I see it more like, we're a drop in the ocean, so we kind of lift it off and then fall back into the ocean, and the drop will never be the same, right? So,
Right. Right. So what do you, sorry, I've got lots of questions here now. So just going back to you having seen yourself as a woman in Japan or a boy in Africa, could that just have been, some sort of creative fantasy that the workshop induced in you, or were there any kind of details in it that you think, actually, I couldn't have made that up? That's
I
beyond
don't
what
fully
all.
remember that now. I just felt and still feel the freedom of that boy running through the landscape. And
Right.
and of course I kind of made it up. So there's always this conversation about the people who say there must be a rational explanation for this. And then there's those who live in a multi-dimensional world of full connection and go
Yes.
like, well, rationality is very overrated. There's so many other senses we
Yeah.
can use. And of course I kind of made it up. But so if we go to life after death, or when I grew up, my parents did not believe in anything that kind of, yeah, so they were modern people, agnostic, and I always felt that can't be the full story. That's just too empty, that's too little, can't be that. Just have a good life and then you die and then there's nothing and there was nothing before. I was like as a child already. And maybe also because I'm the only one with that conviction or that belief in my family of origin. I felt like I must have been dropped here. I came from somewhere, I'm going somewhere. But I did a book on widows, on women who'd lost their partner. And there came a chapter into that book that I had not foreseen, which was the women talking about signs. They interpreted as signs, from their partner, and
Yeah.
some were really, really
So
clear.
tell me one of them.
Yeah, one of them is this woman was a few months after her partner died. She was in a room in their house, but that she wasn't in very often. She has since moved because the house was too big, and she was kind of, I don't know, clearing things out, and then all of a sudden the radio switched on. That was on the other side of the room. That was still there, like kind of an old-fashioned radio. It switched on. It played their song.
Oh, wow. That is bizarre. Goodness.
That is That
That is,
is bizarre.
I mean, the radio switching on, you could say there was some kind of electrical, I don't know, the battery
If you
was
want to
going
be
down or
rational
something.
about it, you can do that.
Playing their song, that is particularly, I mean,
Yeah.
that is
But it
very,
was also women who don't, seem to believe in anything,
yeah,
who felt they got really, really clear signals from
yeah,
their partner that, that it was all right where they were, and that
that's
felt like
nice.
supportive and alleviating the loneliness that they felt. And
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Well, that's lovely. I mean,
yeah.
that's very nice to know.
Yeah, last year, did I tell you this already? Last year I was with a friend who was dying. He died on August 1st, so almost a year ago. And it turned out it was like one of the last days that he could still speak and communicate. And I asked, do you believe in anything? And no, he did not believe in anything. And then I said, well, if there is something, could you send, a postcard from time to time to your partner? And so it was kind of sweet. And I spoke to them. I talked about, this and said, I fully believe our energy does not leave. We're still there. And the Hindus actually have a whole, there's levels of where you go and how you review your life and how you're being reviewed, and then you kind of move on. And I do feel with people who are deceased that they're kind of with us for a while, and then it kind of
It
becomes
sort of fades
faint,
almost. They
fade.
kind of
Yeah.
fade back into the bigger energy or something.
Yeah.
That's,
So his partner, I was with him the other day, and he has now gotten 5 postcards.
oh
We called
wow.
them sent a postcard. And it goes from being in their favorite church and with €1 having kind of bought a candle, then sitting there before the favorite painting that they always used to go to and kind of enjoy. And then thinking, oh, I only had €1. I wish I hadn't bought a candle, but I put actually the spot. And a woman coming into the church, putting her euro in, putting the spotlight on, and leaving the church again.
Oh gosh. Yeah, yeah.
And now there was another one where he said to me, he'd spoken to friends about this and spoken about it in a bit of a denigrating way, like it can't be true. And I've had these things, and then he came home, all the windows were shut, it was shut. And he came in, and the one of the photos that he keeps of his partner kind of jumped off the shelf and kind of floated down. And
Wow.
so then he said, "Forgive me for being so,
Oh,
so
so
kind of
unbelieving.
making fun
Yeah,
of,
your
what you're
postcards.
actually." How
Yeah.
you're actually trying to connect with me, and I do feel you around. And so I thought that was beautiful.
Yes, 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 that's lovely. I mean, I think those sorts of things are easy enough for people who are realists, if you like, not realists, but who don't believe in that kind of thing, easy to dismiss as coincidences
Yeah.
and other things. And maybe maybe that's why my ghost was so perhaps the message to me was that look, this actually has a real, you can check this in real life, this actually happened, what I'm telling you is real, you can go out and check it. And perhaps that's the message for me as somebody who who was mainly disbelieving at that
Yeah.
point because I can't anymore. But I
So what
also,
does that do for you? How it does it affect you if you do believe that, life for the body, of course, the body is a one-time event.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the body will perish. But then, whatever else, if you've ever seen a dead person, I mean, when you see a dead
yeah,
person, there's a body there, but the life has
it's
gone
just
out.
gone.
The
It's
spirit has gone out,
yeah.
right? You do feel there was this enlivening
Yes. Yes,
entity in
yes,
there.
absolutely. It is a very strange thing, and it seems to be more than just the organs have stopped working, the mechanism has run down. There's definitely a feeling of something having, as you say, something having left. But at the moment, I mean, I would say my mum is in the end stages of life at the moment, and it makes me feel less sad that, I feel that she may be able to come back, that she's not, it's not the end. That there is she will go on. Maybe she'll be able to come back. I keep telling her, because my youngest daughter has this ability
Mm.
to, I mean, we call it psychic, whatever it means, but
Hmm.
people from the past come and visit her, and I keep saying to my mum, you must go and see her, you must talk to her, tell her,
Mm.
if if you're there afterwards, I want to know, please do
And
that.
does your daughter have a relationship to the entities that visit her? Like, is she in
Yes, I mean,
conversation? Is she?
she does with some of them she doesn't. I mean, it sort of started with her in the teenage years, and I think teenage girls are particularly prone to having these sorts of psychic experiences. I don't know whether they're just open more. Some people would say, oh, it's just, kind of hormones or whatever, possibly. But I think it started with the little girl who seems to live in our house, and other people have seen her, and she is probably 5 or 6. And I mean, the first time I knew about her, well, the person who sold us our house sort of intimated, she said, have you sort of seen anything or anybody? And I hadn't, of course. So but she there's a particular room. It was what the room my daughters used to sleep in together, and then my younger daughter slept in. And I think that was her room, because that's where she is. And one time it was being decorated, and the builder, the guy who was painting the room, just said to me, "Have you got a ghost in this room? Because the radio keeps going on and off, and things are."
Radio
Yes,
again.
radio
So
seems
that's
to
a
be.
way, because if they are a wavelength,
Yeah,
I believe we are all a wavelength, right? We have a
yeah.
certain vibration, and then without a body, that vibration may still be there if we want to, that frequency may be there. So they may be able to use frequency to make their presence known. That's actually
Yes,
interesting.
yes, well, exactly. I mean, what my daughter says to me is that they only have a limited amount of physical power. And so they can only move, say, very light things like
Yeah.
a photo or
I
piece
like
of
the
paper,
photograph that
or
jumped up there.
or
Yeah.
feathers. Feathers often seem to be part of
Hmm.
people
Yeah.
feeling they've been communicated with.
Yeah.
Butterflies seem to be
Yeah.
an image. So radio, that
Yeah.
yes, as you say, that could be something that they can interfere with quite easily.
But the
So
builder's radio was being switched on.
yes, yes, exactly. And then when my daughter slept in that, when that was her bedroom, she used to say, oh, she used to get quite annoyed with her, because the little girl wanted to play. She wanted to, and she
Hmm.
would come and ruffle her hair and move things and put them, they disappear and then they turn up in another place. And then she would, then she'd see
And
her.
did she ever play with her?
A bit really, but she was a bit older than
Yeah. And the
so
girls. So it was, yeah.
yes. So I mean, and then there's somebody else. There's a maid who lives downstairs in our house and is kind of often seen in the kitchen and the laundry room. Once
Can
she
she do
was.
the cooking for you or
I
the laundry?
wish, I wish, but apparently, apparently she's a very benign, kind, warm kind of feeling. And she's, there's nothing sort of scary. But I mean, for example, we have an old copper. I mean, a kind of like a thing with a fire underneath it, and then there's a copper bowl in it where they used to do the washing in.
Oh,
And I mean, Julia probably doesn't even know what that was. And she said that she'd seen her there sort of working over it. And so
Mm.
that makes perfect sense in
Yeah.
a laundry room. So yeah, there's that. And there was an old man who used to live, in fact, in this room, apparently. I've never seen him, never felt him. I just don't seem to have that mechanism. But several people have seen him, and he's not malignant, but he's unhappy. And
Hmm. Hmm.
he's very
And
tall.
can you ask in your imagination if you were in touch with him, what would
Yes,
make him happy? Was
yes,
there
no,
anything you could
exactly.
do?
Exactly. Well, my other friend who's seen him says that he thinks he's probably about, he was around probably in the 1920s, 1930s, maybe later, but he was sort of, he thinks, and both of them say, everyone says he has a horrible cough. And one of my friends thinks he may have been gassed in the First World War, and then left to sit in a room in my study, and not kind of, had a miserable end kind of thing. So at one point, my daughter said she didn't like going down at night, as she sometimes did, because he wasn't doing anything, but he was sort of he's very tall, and he would stand
Hmm.
there looming, kind of in a
Hmm.
doorway. So one day I came into my study and I said, I know that you're not happy, but you're frightening my daughter, and I don't know if you need to be here, but if I can say anything to say you're free to go, please do. I wish you the best, and if you would like to leave, that is fine with us. And strangely, he hasn't been seen again. So I,
Well done. You treated him with love and respect. Yeah.
yes, yeah, I don't know anything about him. I've got no kind of background as to whether, who lived in our house at that point, or whether, because I have absolutely no feeling. I don't. I was to my mind, I was just talking to the air. I mean, to my experience, if you like, I didn't feel any sense of relationship or another person being there. But I believed it enough to think it's
Yeah.
worth a try.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but and the other thing, I mean, another story. Sorry, my I went to a funeral with my daughter of her head teacher,
Oh.
of one of her schools, died, and we went to the funeral. And I was saying in the car on the way home, oh, that was a lovely service. I think this woman I think she would really have enjoyed it and appreciate it. And Julia just said she did. She was there. She loved it. She was laughing. She was smiling. She was wearing white, and she described a necklace she was wearing. And she said when her partner stood up and gave the eulogy, she was smiling. And I just thought, oh, gosh,
But
that's,
what a lovely idea that we can be present at our
yeah,
own funerals
yes, yes.
and be with, people mourning and saying sweet and lovely things about us, because that's usually what happens at funerals.
Yes,
And feel the love that we have, been part of in our lifetimes. Isn't that beautiful?
yes, yes, it is. No, it's a lovely idea, and I do wish that I could. I don't know. People talk about being able to develop your psychic abilities, and I don't know. Well, you have really, haven't you? I mean, you've been, as you say, to sort of master classes or workshops
Yeah.
or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to play tennis, you have to
yes,
go to the court and practice. It's like anything. If you want to learn a foreign language, you have to, with your app or whatever, you have to learn. So this too is like to develop a sixth sense, so to say, as they say,
yeah.
sixth sense. I can't pronounce that
No,
in
it's a
English.
ridiculous word.
But yeah, so I went to this workshop that, with connection with former incarnations. I did Reiki, which is an energy healing capacity where they kind of activate the healing power in your hands. And then I attended a 4-year healing school in the
Yes,
US, Brennan School of Healing, that is still, still attracting students from all over the world. and really studied this too. And then, yeah, for a while I had a private practice, and I knew things about people as they came in that I could not possibly know. I could not possibly know about, about miscarriages or abortions or things like that having
Yeah.
happened. Or I remember a woman coming from a family that there were miscarriages, two miscarriages, and then she came, and then, even before she started talking, I saw those little sisters around her. And then, of course, I mean, she spoke about how much pressure there was on her because she was the living child and how much grief there was still in the house. And I could just read it or sense it from her field. Like the idea is we all have an energy field around us,
Yeah.
several layers of energy that are distinguishable and that are governed by our seven chakras. And yeah, and I could help clear some of that,
But
most of
that's
that actually.
that's a kind of for the practical person, the fact that you could know that, and then it was it was
Yeah.
said to be true. I mean, you'd seen it, you knew it, but
Yeah.
it was then confirmed
Yeah.
that it had happened in real life. That's a kind of um, I don't know, something for.
For practical people to go like, wow, that no,
Yeah.
it's really true. And I could see that's why I stopped drinking alcohol because also I could see the kind of mist in a person's field through alcohol.
Oh, explain that. What do you mean? What do you mean the
Well, in
myth?
Dutch, we have this word called when you have drunk a lot of alcohol, you can say you're drunk or you're benevolent. And navel is like mist.
Right.
And that's a really good word. And you must have a similar word in English
I'm sure we have. I
for
can't think of it, but yeah.
yeah, and because I could just see mists here and yeah, it was like density in the aura around, especially around the head, actually, maybe the liver and the heart. And I think people do use alcohol to kind of numb out. I mean, it's also a social thing, and it's supposed to be. All the ads say it's a very happy making thing, but it's also, of course, too
Of
much of a
course.
good thing,
Yeah.
and there's addiction there, and there's, I mean, it comes with a lot of issues, and
So
yeah,
when you stopped drinking, I thought you were going to say that you stopped drinking alcohol because it enabled you to see something.
also.
The actual
Yeah.
the drinking, the alcohol kind of opened up some kind of ability in you, and you didn't want it.
No, no, no.
But it wasn't
Alcohol,
that. It was that you saw what
alcohol
it was doing to other
clogs,
people.
clogs you. So I
Yeah.
could see the alcohol in their field.
Yeah.
And I thought if my study is all about being fully present in the moment
Yeah.
and being it clear, a clear channel for spirit, if you want to call it that, to work through, then why, clog my field and
Yeah.
numb myself and with alcohol. So that's why I stopped
Yeah, no,
drinking.
no, no, that makes perfect sense. I'd just kind of gone down another because my friend who is psychic, he says that when he drinks, the fields open up for him. So
Aha.
it kind of
Yeah.
not necessarily that it's a good thing, but the night that Ernest came to visit him in our house, we had been having dinner. I mean, it was a kind of it was almost ridiculously sort of metaphoric. It was a hot summer evening. We'd been having dinner and drinking a fair amount of red wine, and outside the window at about sort of 9 or 9:30, there was suddenly this massive summer thunderstorm, and there were cracks of thunder and lightning down. And then suddenly Mike said, Lucy, there's someone here who wants to talk to you. And it was like it's like the scene
Wow.
had been set. It was
Wow.
very theatrical, but he does say that alcohol enables him to kind of be more
Yeah.
open to those connections. And I mean, there's a story
Interesting.
he tells that,
Yeah.
once he was in a pub and he suddenly knew that he had to talk to a woman he'd never met in at all. And because he was kind of emboldened perhaps by alcohol, he went up to her and said, somebody is telling me that you must not stop your music tuition. You really need to go on with it. And this is, there's a woman I've got here who really wants you to do this. And she's, looked at him with kind of amazement and said, "That's my grandmother. She wanted me to do opera singing, and I was just thinking, I'm getting nowhere with this. I'm going to give it up." And right, okay, I won't. So,
Wow.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That is wonderful. That is so beautiful if you can do that. And yeah, to be
Yeah.
emboldened to do that because you do develop this sense through also listening. And like I work also with, my pendulum.
Right.
I
Yeah.
ask questions of my pendulum. I wonder if any of our listeners ever do this, but I have my trusted friend here.
Wow. Yes, that's very beautiful. But yes, I mean, I certainly know people who do.
So I always begin by asking, are we still friends?
Right.
And so for me, our agreement is that if it turns clockwise, that's a yes. And can you now show me the anti-clockwise or the no? So the no is like this. No, this is a no. Is this a no? Yes, that's a no.
So is
So
that you? I mean, are you doing that?
that's the practical person saying that must be
Yeah.
you, you must be doing that. I'm sure that but I'm not like moving. You can see that I'm not moving my hand. Can you show me a yes again? I'm not going like
No,
this.
no, right.
I'm just going. I was at a book launch. The book is called Sacred Business, and it was written by my friend Nikki Trott. And I was at a book launch, and I was talking with a young woman, one very lovely young woman. And she was like a bit in between kind of jobs and had left diplomacy and foreign affairs and kind of looking at where to go. And I said, well, do you have like a trusted advisor? And she kind of looked at me and we were kind of in that bookstore was a little kind of tree with pendulums. So I said, I'm looking at trusted advisors. And she looked at the pendulums and then bought one, chose one and bought one. And she told me later she came home with it. And her youngest daughter, a 4-year-old daughter, said, Mummy, what do you have in your bag? You have something in your bag. And played with it the whole, until she needed to go to bed. I would say the whole evening, but that's a very short evening for a 4-year-old, presumably. And yeah, and had like this very instant connection to working with the pendulum. Yeah.
Wow. And did she get an answer from her pendulum about what
Yeah,
she?
well, she's working. You also, of course, have to ask the right questions.
Right, right.
You can't, a pendulum cannot work with either or. They have no either
No.
or. So
Yeah, it's a yes or no kind
so
of
you can
response.
say, is this time for me to go do something else? Well, for me, it obviously isn't because the pendulum holds still. No, it's just so,
Interesting.
no, not really. It's kind of not the right question. So like a friend, you have to develop a relationship and
Right, right.
confidence, but also I do what the pendulum says.
Always.
Well, always, but sometimes not straight away. Because I feel the other beings have no conception of how long things take in the
No,
world.
no,
Yeah.
no. Human time is a,
The world of molecules is very amazing, but very slow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I always go like, I love little rituals. So then I go like, thank you for this demonstration. Thank you very much. And I keep it here in my bowl. And
yes.
yeah.
Is there a question we could ask your pendulum to end on to see if
Oh,
we can get a what could we ask it that would be a good question? And
well, we've been talking about life after death, but of course
oh,
the answer would come through me, and I'm a big believer, so that would be interesting. But so could we ask, yeah, could we ask a question there? Oh, you are such a good question asker. What would be your question?
uh,
Let me ask, can you give an answer to a question asked by Lucy? Yeah, there's a small yes there. There's a
not
bit of a
terribly happy about that.
hesitant yes.
It's sort of like a if I
You
have to.
feel, do you feel like this is now a party trick? No, it doesn't feel like this is now a party trick.
Okay. Doesn't seem extremely enthusiastic to answer one of my.
No, it's not extremely enthusiastic. What would be a good
Is that
question?
a no?
No, this is just no. Look, it's kind of interesting when it holds completely still.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Can I ask it? Would it be possible for me to have the ability to be more psychic than I am now?
So the question is, would it be possible for Lucy? Oh yeah.
Oh, oh goodness.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, it's getting
Yes.
quite, oh gosh. Oh my.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So can anyone get in touch with other beings? Yeah. I mean, they certainly think so. Yay. There it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I certainly know people who have spirit guides in various forms, sometimes animal, sometimes human. It's yeah. Oh well, now I've got to work out what to do about this then. Whether
I think kind of look at things as animated, as, vessels for spirit.
hmm,
And connect with a tree or a favorite place. And very often you kind of feel there's other beings there with you who kind of, if you say hello to a neighbor, you don't immediately have a deep conversation. So it's all about building relationships and being
right.
open to those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to let that process and see if something kind of comes to me. I mean, like,
Yeah.
here's a program that's popped up on my on my screen that says become more psychic or,
Yeah. Well, maybe
or
I could send you things.
well, you
But
probably
I'm
could.
also curious about people who are listening. Do you have experiences that you cannot, explain away rationally? Have you been in touch with other beings as a child and maybe forgotten about it? Or are you longing for a contact, maybe with a particular person or a particular being? And how would that affect you?
Yeah. Yes, that would be very interesting to know. Please do tell us your
Yeah.
experiences if you've had them.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
I love living in a bigger context and feel that, somehow we're all expressions of the one light. And
Yeah, and I
yeah,
always found it so fascinating that you've always lived like that. You've always felt like that, even though your familial environment was completely
yeah,
against it.
and still is,
Yeah,
and
and
still
still, yeah,
is.
yeah,
Apart from, some nephews and nieces, one nephew, two nieces, maybe one, maybe two. Yeah, who the others are completely, yeah, don't have this. So that is interesting how we're born into these families, and
yeah.
if we believe it all happens for a reason, that must have happened for a reason.
Well, that was an interesting discussion. I would
Yes,
love to know what anybody thinks of it. So
so
let
do
us
I.
know, and we'll talk again next week.
We will. See you then.
Bye.